What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to ICNV Drives Edition. While I'm enjoying getting chauffeured around, I feel like I should drop this quick video real quick because I've been putting off making it, and I'm gonna get more in detail probably about the car and just get the more animated cuts. But while I'm not driving, I can probably get a full thought out. So let's get into the truth about the Z06 ownership. Let's go. So before we get really deep into this conversation, please hit the like and subscribe button. For those of you that just subscribed to the channel, welcome back. I appreciate you guys. I know I got a lot of subscribers as of lately that just joined in, especially for the Z06 information. So I want to thank you all for spending your time with me, and for my consistent subscribers from before, I appreciate your support. You know we're growing and the conversations are always interesting. So again, don't forget to hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Now, the reason why I decided to shoot this video is because a lot of people are out there talking about the price of the Z06, which we've had a conversation about that. So I'm not even going to really get back into the pricing of the Z06, but what I want to talk to you about is understanding what's taking place. So back earlier in the year, GM released the official stern letter saying that they were going to go after dealers for charging over MSRP and lying to customers. I mean, the wording is very vague and kind of tricky at what their plans were to actually do. Is that regardless of how it plays out, here's the truth about the Z06 ownership. I've told people many times before, so I'm going to crash course this and steal some key points from a couple other videos I made. I've literally spoken to over 127 dealers between January 1st and literally, I would say, March 31st of 2022. Since then, I have also spoken to a few more dealers, maybe about another 15, just off casual stumbling into them as I'm out and about traveling around the country. And what I've come to realize when I get to these dealers, and I want to share this information with you, is that between that timeline, a lot of dealers were not honoring MSRP pricing, and they were saying it up front. So now when we hear more dealers flip, and I'm not trying to be psychic, I know I've said this multiple times before, I said it was going to happen back in May of 2021, and people told me I was crazy, and I appreciate that. Some of the people are now watching now because they realize the information I provide is not a lot. So to get to the point behind it all is, a lot of dealers are now charging over MSRP price. And the truth about owning a Z06 is, at the end of the day, the top 2 dealers, the top 3 dealers, the top 5 dealers, and I can't even say the top 5, but the top 2 dealers and 3 of the top 4 or 3 of the top 5 dealers, depending on where Les Stanfield falls, cannot sell all the Corvette C8 Z06s. And the dealers that say they are selling for MSRP are telling me their lists are backed up for 3 to 4 years. Now, I won't lie to you, and I won't say any names, but some of you know your dealers out there. I have inquired or implied through a couple of these dealers that I would be interested in possibly the dealers that sell the MSRP of possibly acquiring a Z06 for a couple thousand over MSRP. And with that help, a few dealers did entertain my thoughts. I was told they'll get back to me. And so even at the end of the day, at this point, I don't believe every dealer that said they're selling the MSRP is committed to selling the MSRP. And like before in the good old United States, money talks. So that's kind of where we're at. So when it comes to getting a Z06, I've been asked by a couple people watching my videos, are you truly going to get a Z06? My answer to that question is, my plan was to get a Z06 in 2023 fall, 2024 spring. I'm not trying to vary away from that because of other projects I have going on, and honestly I need Zeus for at least some of those projects leading up into the spring of 2023. So that's the only reason that was my target date. You're probably seeing a video with my wife. I also talk about the future of Zeus on the channel and in our ownership. So stay tuned for that video. But my purpose about this video and why I wanted to shoot it is that when you talk about C8 Z06 ownership, and I hear people all the time, and I'm not trying to really get into the Corvette market conversation again, but the Corvette market is still running strong. I'll post a couple of clips up real quick so you can see that if you're on Facebook, and a lot of people have gotten off Facebook, especially in any form of a Corvette group that allows people to post their vehicles for sale, you're seeing a lot of dealers posting cars that they ordered at spec that they're telling people up front you can buy for 25 to 30 grand over MSRP. A lot of people are engaged in these conversations, and people are acquiring their C8 from this. I expect to see the same thing hit the market when the Z06 comes out. And you ask me, why do I expect that? Because there are several dealers, at least 17 or 22, I got to go back to my paperwork and look at it, but I know for a fact there's at least 17 dealers, it may be 22, that I've spoken to that sat there and said, we're not doing any list, we're just going to order our Corvette C8 Z06s and then we're going to put them up for sale. Well, my response to those dealers, because I'm always networking, that's the key thing about being out here, you got to network. Even if you're not doing a YouTube channel, you got to network. And so I've been told that depending on where they at and how the market is playing, I may get a couple dealers to actually engage me with that, because they're selling for a markup, I agree to pay a markup. So if it plays out that way, like if I come across a offer or a deal I can't pass up, I may jump. That's the whole thing. But you got to be ready for these opportunities, and these opportunities will come. And the reason why I say that, I'm gonna give you a quick flashback. For those of you that know me when I first started this YouTube channel, I was given an opportunity to buy a C8, a Corvette C8 Coupe, white 2LT Corvette C8 for under MSRP. And people are gonna say, what? Here's the backdrop. The car got delivered to the dealership right when COVID hit and people were getting laid off and furloughed. The person that ordered the car did not take the car because he had got furloughed, and said, oh, at that point in time, owning the C8 did not make sense. And because I always network with dealers, meaning they knew I'd get the GM employee discount, and I was interested in a Corvette, I made that known, and I was trying to work out something with this dealer to get a Corvette C8. They called me instantly when he bagged out the deal and said, hey, we'll do this. We'll sell you a Corvette C8 Coupe at half the discount of my GM employee discount, and I could have had one when they first hit the market. Now, my perception back then, and I was unreal about it, and I'll just be real with you, my perception back then was, oh, okay, I don't really want a coupe, I want a convertible. I did not expect the market to jump like it did, so I didn't take the deal. 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, despite COVID, all of these cars were now selling for a premium. And I felt like an idiot because my best friend told me, just get the coupe, drive it until the convertible comes out, and trade the coupe in on the convertible. And my response was like every other Corvette owner who did not get a Corvette C8 when they had the opportunity for $5K over. And I hear them all day complaining on Facebook, and they even talk to me on my chats, they even talk to me on my messenger, is that I didn't see the car going 20 grand above, 30 grand above, and sustaining that type of markup for years. We're into the 4th model year, and they're still selling these cars for 25 and 30 grand above MSRP. That's crazy. So that's what happened with me. So now, like I said with that, is I got to keep myself ready or prepared in case the opportunity comes up, because if a deal comes up like that again, which I'm sure I would never see nothing like that, but if a deal comes up where I can get one for 5,000 or 10,000 over, especially in this current market conditions, that's something I have to look forward to or possibly engage in. So I'll be ready. But getting back to the purpose is, the reasons I said the truth about Corvette C8 Z06 ownership is, the truth is, no matter how many people complain, no matter how many people sit there and say you shouldn't buy a Corvette for over MSRP, my guesstimation calculations is every model year, only 1,800 to 2,600 people may buy a Corvette C8 Z06 for true MSRP. And once you get past those owners who only got the cars for true MSRP, everybody else will end up paying some form of over MSRP pricing. You can't get away from that. So when people sit there and say, oh, they messed up the market, at the end of the day, when you see a Corvette Z06 on the street, just understand over 85% of the cars on the street are going to have some form of markup. When I was doing my research, 6 of the top 10 dealers are selling some form of over MSRP pricing. So if you got 6 of the top 10 selling over MSRP pricing, that's just going to trickle down. I had 6 of the top 10, I believe 14 of the top 20 were selling at some form of over MSRP pricing, and this was back in April of 2022. I haven't even checked recently. And then out of the top 100, I did not, and I'll give you this disclaimer, I did not get a chance to speak to every dealership in the top 100, although the bottom 90 or 80 through 120 usually fluctuates. I did not get a chance to speak to all of the top 100 dealers when it comes to over MSRP pricing, or how they were handling the C8 Z06 when it came to ordering pricing and so forth. But what I can tell you is I did speak to well over 76 of the top 100 dealers, but I've spoken to 120 dealers. I want you to understand, over 120 dealers in general. I spoke to 76 of the top 100 dealers, and out of that 76 dealers I spoke to, 58 or 59 of them were selling at some form of over MSRP pricing. Now, don't get me wrong, some of these dealers are selling anywhere between 5,000, some are selling 10,000, some are selling 13, some are selling 15, some are selling 25, a few are selling 50. But so I can't tell you, but all I'm sitting there saying to you and who to go, because I know some people are like, oh, which dealer's doing this? I got a list somewhere, literally written down for my purpose alone, but that's what I was coming up with. And I want people to understand this, because when everybody sits there and say, oh, my dealer's selling at MSRP and things of this nature, we had a conversation before about what over MSRP pricing truly was, and everybody's not going to get MSRP. I'm sorry. Again, when I say this, I know a lot of people get offended and sit there and say I'm supporting dealers and markup and so forth. I will just truthfully be honest with you. I don't really support dealer markups, but I understand. So you can either be upset and criticize it, or you can be one of the buyers who just try not to get hurt too bad. And that's the truth. So when you look at this, when I talk to a small dealer and they say they're charging 30 grand above MSRP, when you go back and hear Rick Hendricks, which is a big time Chevy dealer, he has like 4 or 5 Chevy stores, and all of his stores are selling cars at 11 to 13 grand over MSRP. You got to pay some form of markup. When you go to the top 10 Corvette dealers, when I last checked, 5 of them for sure, maybe 6, were selling over MSRP. So when you look at it like that, and they're going to get the bulk amount of the Corvettes. So like I said, you can either be upset about it, or you can understand what's taking place, and you can start to make calculated moves to get you a car. And that's what my plan is. I'm going to make whatever necessary moves to get me a car in the timeline I want to purchase a vehicle. Or over 80% of the cars you see that hits the streets will have some form of markup on it. The $50,000 MSRP pricing, I don't see that going anywhere for at least a year. The $100,000 MSRP price, I think they'll probably run strong for probably, I'm saying probably, that will probably run strong for 6 to 8 months. I don't think it'll make a full year. Any form of markup after that, I would say somewhere in the $50,000 or less than 50, I'd say like somewhere in the $35,000 range. That probably will run strong for 2 years, possibly 3. It all depends on how soon the E-Ray comes out and where it's price pointed at, and how the dealers move forward with marking that vehicle up. So that's supposed to be a 2024 model year release. So you may see it the fall of 2023, but that's going to really help balance out the C8 Z06 market and the C8 market. But again, it just depends on where dealers come in marking that one up, because I feel like they won't chase 50,000 or 100 grand over. They'll probably chase somewhere between 25 and 30,000. So if they're chasing 25 and 30,000 over MSRP, then the Z06 will still balance out at least 25 grand over MSRP for most dealers. So that's what we gotta look forward to. So to me, that's the truth about Corvette C8 Z06 ownership, is to own one, especially within the first 2 years, you're gonna have to, for most parts, expect to pay over MSRP. Because if you're too late at this point to get on a list where MSRP pricing is available, and if you're not on their top, I would say at Ciocca, if you're not within the top 600 cars on their list, then you're probably not going to see one in the first 2 years. McMokin, if you're not within the top 575, somewhere around that, you're probably not going to see one in the first 2 years. Les Stanfield, if you're probably not within the top 100, you probably won't see one in the first 2 years. And that's how everything is starting to play out, that you probably won't see one in the first 2 years. But if you want to own one, if you want one the first 2 years, year 3 to me is going to be the actual balance out year, where probably we see more C8 Z06 owners that aren't paying ridiculous markup, but there's still going to be some markup. And for those of you that are going to sit there and say, hey, I don't think that's going to happen, the bubble's going to burst and so forth. Well, here's the one thing you have to understand. Many people got on a Corvette C8 Z06 list knowing they were paying $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 above MSRP, and they signed up on these lists knowing they won't see a model year until probably 3 years out. So my question to you is, if I'm a dealer and you said you would agree to pay $25,000 for over MSRP for a car, why would I let you out that agreement? Now I know you're going to say, well, hey, we signed up to pay MSRP and they want us to pay over. But that's why I tell people all the time, car sales is a dirty game, because you have a want and they have the need. You want something, they have it. If you want a C8 Z06 and they have a C8 Z06, your want doesn't outweigh the fact that they own the car. Because if you won't take it, they'll find someone else that will. And even if they don't find someone else that will, dealerships are petty. I've experienced it so many times in my life, especially when I worked at dealerships. They will not sell you a car at the price that you want to buy it at, and then turn around and sell it to somebody else who didn't make a big deal out of it. So what do I mean by that? You will sit there and say, well, the market's changed and this. I'm only willing to pay $10,000 over. And they'll say, yeah, we're not going to sell it to you for 10 grand. But then they'll take the next person that walks through the door and says, oh man, that's a good car. I don't know about the asking price, I can do this. But he never came in and said, made the fuss or the demand that you made, and they'll turn around and sell him the car for $8,000 over. I've seen that happen so many times before, and not with the markup, but I've seen people come in on a car and they want to sit there and start telling the dealer what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. They leave without the car. The next customer that comes in and seems more easy to work with, they'll sell him the car less than what they were selling to the person that was telling the dealer what they're going to do. So that's what I'm trying to get across to you is, the market may change, but don't think because the market changed, the dealer just so easily going to give you the adjustment for the change. Now, I'm expecting a lot of comments on this one, so let me know what you guys think. But that's my truth about owning a Corvette C8 Z06, especially the first 3 model years, which honestly, since we're having this conversation, I only expect the C8 Z06 to run 5 model years. So year 4, year 5 is going to be an interesting market, because I feel like the Z06 production is going to get cut down or reduced to handle the ZR1, which should be in production by then, and possibly Zora. That's my truth about C8 Z06 ownership, is at the end of the day, you're going to pay some form of markup unless you've been on a list at a major dealer that's selling the MSRP for one of the first 3 to 4 model years. Let me know what your thoughts are. Respond in the comments. We can talk about it. I would love to hear what you got to say. I know I'm expecting some really interesting comments, because I always get them, but I still appreciate you guys for reaching out and commenting and staying involved in the conversation. So, ICNV Driver Edition, please hit the like and subscribe. Share the video. I'll see you in the streets. Stay safe. Be blessed. Peace.